Hi everyone, this video will explain how to transpose a melody one octave lower from the treble clef into the bass clef, using a simple 4-step process. Let's get started. So, we're doing our exam paper and we've been given this question. It asks us to take the notes of this melody in the treble clef and not only rewrite it down here in the bass clef, but to write it an octave lower in pitch. If you're used to playing in the bass clef, this is probably simple enough. But for those of us that don't, this can be quite complicated. Well, never fear. With these 4 steps, we can make this task much more manageable for those of us that struggle with the bass clef, and make sure we get those vital marks in our exam. So, without further ado, let's get started on answering this question. Please note, always do this question with a pencil. This will mean that you can rub out your working and correct any mistakes in a legible manner. Step 1. Work out where the E octaves are and draw them in. This whole technique depends on us remembering one key thing, and that is that this note here on the bass clef, that's the second space from the top, is 1 octave down from this E that's on the bottom line of the treble clef. In pencil, draw these notes in lightly, before the first note of the melody in the treble clef, and before your answer in the bass clef. Do this in pencil because we're going to need to erase this later. Step 2. Work out the first note of your answer. Starting on the E that we've drawn in the treble clef, count how many steps you need to go up or down to the first note of the melody. Remember, when we talk about steps, we mean moving to the next line or space. Let's do this with this example now. So, starting on the E, I can see that I need to move up to the next note. Let's count the number of steps we go up as we go from line to space. So, starting from the E, it's 1 to the space, 1 to the line, 1 to the space, 1 to the line. And this is the line that our note is on, so we stop counting here. So we have had to move 4 steps up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, we're going to write in the first note of our answer. And to do this, we come down to our bass clef, and starting on the E, we will draw the first note by moving in the same direction and same number of steps as we just did in the treble clef. So in other words, I'm going to start on the E, I'm going to move 4 steps up, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've landed on this space, so this is where I'm going to draw my first note. If I were you, I would use your pencil to count up the steps like I have, keeping track of the lines and spaces. Now that you've done this, let's rub out the E's we used for our working, just so that they don't get confused for our answer. Step 3. Work out the rest of the notes. Now we just go through the rest of the melody, moving from one note to the next, noting the direction and the number of steps between the notes. Then we come down to the bass clef and reflect those steps in our answer. So, between this note and the next one, we count the steps and note the direction again. This next note is 1 step down from the last note. 1. So again, I come down to the bass clef and replicate this. Go to this note, count 1 step down, so there's where I'll draw my next note. Let's repeat this for all the notes to complete our answer. So, starting on this note, we're going up the way to the next note, and let's count the steps. 1, 2. So 2 steps up the way, we're going to come down to the bass clef, and we're going to replicate that, moving from this note, up the way, 1, 2. Draw that note in. You'll see that this note is a minim, so I need to make sure that I copy that into my answer, otherwise I won't get the mark. This also applies for bar lines. You'll see here that this note is a dotted crotchet and this note is a quaver. I need to make sure I copy them properly. And you should also make sure that you copy any other markings or symbols in the treble clef into your answer. For example, this note here has a sharp symbol in front of it. I need to make sure that I copy that sharp symbol in my answer, otherwise I won't get the mark because it's the wrong note. Bearing that in mind, let's draw our bar line in here and then continue with our notes. So moving from here to here, we're going up the way and it's one step. So let's do the same in our answer. 1. Draw that dotted crotchet in there. From this note to this note, we're going down the way and we're going one step. Let's draw that in our answer. To here, drawing that in, making sure it's a quaver. And finally for our last note, from here to here, we're going down the way again, and this time we're going 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. So let's come down to our bass clef, starting here, just do the same, 1, 2, 3, 4. Draw my minimum there, and then, like I discussed, draw that sharp sign in. And then I'll put my bar line in there, and that's my answer. Step 4. Check your work. You can double check that you have written the notes on the correct lines and spaces by naming the notes in the treble clef and by checking that they are the same as the notes in the bass clef. If the note letters are the same, then your answer should be correct. If they don't match, chances are that you're just a step or two out, so move your answer to the correct line or space to match the letters. Next, rub out your working so that the person marking your paper doesn't get them confused for your final answer. Make sure that you rub out the 2 E's we put in at the start if you haven't done that already. Finally, check you haven't missed any bar lines and that all crotchets are crotchets and minims are minims, etc, etc. And that's you, your answer's complete. It's always worth double checking your answers, especially after you've put so much effort into writing it in the first place. It's amazing how many marks are lost to silly little mistakes. Okay, that's us then. I hope the video helped you, and remember, practice makes perfect, so if you want practice, ask your teacher for some questions. See you in the next video.